In this lesson, we're going to learn about timers. There are several timers operating in the SpectraCyber. Besides the timers for the UTC, local, sidereal, and Julian date, we have a scan timer. The scan timer is important, especially, say, in continuum mode. We'll select continuum mode. Continuum modes will run indefinitely until they're told to stop. So you should be picking a timer here. You can select from this drop-down box as to how long you want to collect data, up to, including, 24 hours, or a diurnal rate. At the diurnal rate, of course, is on sidereal time, so this will happen at 23 hours in about 4 or 5 minutes less than the 24. The scan timer is used also to stop a spectral scan. Normally, if you've chosen to use no timer by clicking on none, the scan timer is going, the time for the scan is going to begin at the low frequency and end at the upper frequency. Each frequency step, because of latency in the software and the rate of communications to the SpectraCyber hardware, is a little bit over 1 second. So this is an approximate time. Each step is about 5 kilohertz apart, and so it takes several seconds in order for, or maybe even minutes, depending on how large of your bandwidth is, your choice here is, could take a length of time to acquire the data. That's going to interact with your timer, and if you've chosen a time that's too small, like say we pick 10 seconds here, we have too many steps between -15 and 25 in order to be able to collect this data within a 10-second period. This is only going to take about approximately 8 to 9 to 10 values, and this is going to take a lot more than that. So if you were to click on the scan button at this point to do a say a continuum scan, we'll choose continuum. Wait a minute, we need to be on spectral mode. To try to do a spectral mode, and you've picked time that's probably too short, let's click on scan and see what happens. The timer fault window comes up. SpectraCyber makes the best attempt guess at how long, based on your latency, that you need to be able to run the timer in order to be able to collect your frequency bandwidth. This doesn't necessarily apply to continuum, since it's not really a frequency change we're doing. We're holding it at a single frequency on continuum. It's just a raw time there to stop a continuum run. But to stop a timed scan from on a particular bandwidth, you're informed to either increase the time to greater than 82 seconds or to narrow your bandwidth down to take fewer points. So this would be an improper choice. We have to go greater than 80 seconds. Well, we'd have to come back over here and pick a time of something larger than 1 minute. 2 minutes should go ahead and work. So let's see what happens if we pick 1 minute, because this should also fail. We pick a scan here, and it should come up and tell us that we're still not quite large enough yet. But if we close this and we now increase to 2 minutes, we should have plenty of time. We don't get an error. There goes the status bar. The signal status bar is running, and we're taking data at, notice here, at a resolution rate of every 10 seconds. So now this also has an effect upon how quickly we can take data over this time period. These things will interact. Your sample rate and your timer, when using in a frequency mode, will all interact. The software will attempt its best guess to try to tell you that you need to make some changes in order to be able to acquire this data. We'll go ahead and stop this. There's no reason to go on. It will quit at the right time. Now, that's just something to be aware of. So it's very wise, before you do any kind of actual collection of data, run a brief test and be sure that all of your selections are correct. I'm going to set this back now to no time, just for the heck of it. Now there's one last timer, a very useful timer. Let's say that you want to start collecting data on a object as it begins to cross your meridian, but it's going to cross at a time when you're not available to be in front of your computer to be able to start this scan manually. You can do it automatically by picking the Start Time menu. And in the Start Time menu, you need to input a right ascension that you want to be on your meridian at the time you're going to collect the data. So this would be the right ascension that we're going to be taking. It's actually, every time you click this, it will put in the current right ascension that's crossing your meridian at that moment. If you want to collect this data, it's probably wise to maybe start a little bit earlier, and you can do that by clicking one of these pre-triggers of either 5 minutes or 10 minutes. This will start the scan 5 minutes earlier than your right ascension, or 10 minutes early, whichever one you've chosen, so that it'll be several minutes before the beginning to the east. It'll be on the east of your meridian. When you pick a time over here to stop the scan, it should be large enough because you would like to also scan through the meridian and maybe 5 to 10 minutes on the other side. So if we were to start at 5 minutes here and we click OK, you'll notice where it comes back to this side. It now is set it pre-triggered at a particular time, and here it is. Here's the time it's going to take to get there. So we should choose a timer now that's going to be larger than that. So if we took 10 seconds, 10 minutes actually, we were on 5 minutes. We picked 5 minutes. Let's pick up 10 minutes for the timer. This will begin at 5 minutes before this position, and it'll complete 5 minutes to the west. And someplace in between, we would have collected the data as the object passed over our meridian. Now, this shows you that you're triggering for 5 seconds, and everything's ready to go. You've set all your other settings, but it's not going to run yet, not until you click the Enable button. When you click the Enable button, it tells you to be sure your timer is set up. It wants to be sure that you have a grayed out timer in there. If you don't have that, or if it gets cleared by accident, you need to reset it. So here we are. It's nice and gray. Everything's working fine. So we can go away, and actually, since this time we've chosen is the sidereal time, which is already moved to the west of my position, approximately one sidereal day later, tomorrow, this will now trigger. This will stay waiting in the background until this time occurs. This allows you, if you wish, to go ahead and do other scans in between, because you've got 24 hours before this is going to occur. Just be aware of the fact that if you set this thing up properly and you set it to pre-trigger for a future, and that sidereal time is coming up, you notice we're at 1834. Here it's 1842 already. But if this was say maybe 1850, within about 7 minutes or so, this is going to occur. The trigger will begin to run, and we'll be collecting data. So just be aware that that's what it's done. This is a very, very nice feature. Now, if you want to turn this off, it's very simple. Just simply click it off, and the timer gets turned off. And it will not start. Let's go back and re-click on the timer again. Notice it has now chosen the current time, sidereal time that's crossing over. We still have the 5 minute corrected. It remembers some of this information and presets it. There's another button here called Repeat. And what Repeat's supposed to do is that this scan will repeat every day. This is very much like setting up your VCR. An old VCR recorder, so that every day you will record another session at the sidereal rate. So as soon as this right ascension crosses every day, you will be collecting another set of data. And this, of course, is best to be used in the project mode, because the project mode will automatically set your data and save your data for you. If you were to do it in the user mode, it would simply be overriding yesterday's previous scan. in the temporary file. So it's really more functional to use this in the project mode. That's what it's intended for. This gives you a completely unattended mode. Set this up, make it repeat, come back a week later, and you will have a lot of data waiting in your project file. So I hope you understand this, and just be aware that these things can interact on each other, and the software will attempt to do its best guess on that. Always try to run a temporary scan, to test scan, to be sure that it's going to do exactly what you want before you get involved with a long period of waiting through a timer for starting your data. It's pretty bad that you come back later and find out that nothing started because you made a bad choice of your setups. I hope you understand, and I hope you will have fun using SpectraCyber. In the next lesson, we'll learn something about how to use a remote connection to SpectraCyber.